Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Ascension Mastery video series. Now again, this video series is meant to give us the right tools, principles, and maybe even tips about how we can continue our own awakening process or spiritual awakening process. In this video, I'm going to talk about why you should avoid asking some questions that all of us make the mistake of asking all the time. I'm going to give you examples of limitation. I'm going to give you the right questions that you should ask, or the only two questions that I believe that you should ask, and how to trust the system itself. So, stay tuned. Before we start, I would like to ask you why you have limited yourself. Now, why do people limit themselves generally? We do limit ourselves. Now, I've limited myself with food and indulgence. I know monks limit themselves. When we get married, we limit ourselves to one person so we can dive in and we can learn much more from the experience. As a soul, that we don't generally remember, the previous incarnations that we have, where we actually come from. Some of us are old souls, some of us are new souls. We've chosen to limit ourselves into one human body and one human experience. Now, the amount of information that we have is also limited. Why? Because we know that the universe is grand, it's enormous, there's multiverses, there's multi-timelines, there's multi-dimensions, and in all of these things, we have chosen one planet in one galaxy, in one timeline, and we've limited ourselves. Now, the reason that we did this is so we can learn what we are not. And this might sound confusing to you, but when we learn what we are not, when we are expanding our experience, the godly experience, because we are a part of God, and this is what the Ascension is going to teach you, is that you are one in many that are one. It's like a mirror that has been shattered into 1 billion different pieces, and all of them are floating in space, and each piece actually mirrors all the other pieces. Now, when you are asking for information, for example, about a different lifetime, or a different lifetime that you had, a previous lifetime, even though we know it can also be a future lifetime. You're actually asking for the system to give you something that you are not meant to have. Now remember all of your lifetimes. Remember the type of lifetimes that you were a murderer. Remember the type of lifetimes when you lost your unborn child, when you lost your baby. Remember the type of lifetimes that you had to go through very crucial and negative experiences, and imagine knowing all of those things right now in this lifetime. Imagine being married to someone in this lifetime, okay? And then remembering all your previous lifetimes when you were actually 90% of the time you're incarnated with the same soul, and that is your true soulmate. And now that you know that they exist and you love them so much and you remember all your experiences with them, how can you still be in love with your wife or with your husband in this lifetime? You see, sometimes we humans like to know or want to know much more than we are permitted to know. And when we ask all these questions and when we think beyond the box, for example, take me for example. I've had several awakening experiences that have told me directly, just something woke up next to me and told me, Ray, you have to stop looking for that answer that you're looking for. The meaning of life, the beyond. You have to start grounding yourself. Be like a tree. If a tree wants to grow higher in spirituality, higher, and expand, it has to grow roots much deeper. And roots, it means stay within your zone. Whatever they gave you, you have all the information that you actually need. Whatever they gave you. And that means everything that you know right now is what you need to take or you need to know in order to reach your next goal. Grounding means, for me, grounding to my family, grounding to a house, being in nature much more, enjoying the moment much more, not thinking what is beyond the self. The type of question that you should actually avoid is, why don't I have this and that? Or why can't I be this and that? Why can't I be shorter? Why can't I be taller? Why wasn't I born in a different neighborhood or different parents? Why did this actually happen to me? Of course, in a negative context, yeah? If you want to know why something happened and you want to learn something from it, that's completely different. And there's so many different other questions that, again, the way to understand what you shouldn't ask is anything that moves you from the zone of being in the present moment. In other words, everything that shoots your consciousness into an unknown future. I'm not telling you don't plan. Plan, make plans. But if you see that it becomes a mental filter, in other words, something that you are thinking about over and over and over again. For example, financial situations. Most people always think about their financial problems, or I don't have enough money. And why don't I have enough money? A lot of people are stuck in a relationship that doesn't serve them. So they're always thinking about, should I leave this relationship? Why doesn't this actually work? What can I do to make this better? It's different when you ask something for a solution, or you're asking your DNA or your intuition or your higher guidance, or when you're actually disturbed by it and it's something that is very, very repetitive all the time. You will probably notice that where you are right now is not where you actually expected to be. And in every point, you probably understand that you have all the information, all the tools, all the clues to what you need to know in order for you to move to your next step. Then the only two questions that you really should be asking is, number one, who am I? And number two, what is this place? These questions, when you intuitively answer them, and you will, because there's a lot of different answers for them. Religion tries to answer them, but you intuitively know that it's not a mental answer. It's not an answer that we can actually answer with words and with, with sentences and with information. Who am I? That echoes within yourself. And when you ask yourself that, close your eyes and ask yourself again, who am I? You're going to get two different answers, two different vibrations and feelings of who am I really in this context. And that is what you should ask yourself. And the second question is, what is this place? In other words, what is the illusion? What am I doing here? What is essence? What is creation? What is experience? What is God trying to experience through me? And when you know not to ask other questions that are moving you beyond the scope of yourself, because you don't need to ask those questions. You've asked them enough. Now it's time to trust and to let go, to understand that when I do trust, those answers are coming to me naturally. And for me, in my own experience, when I've asked too much, and like I told you, I've had several awakening experiences of people waking up next to me, changing their eyes, like an entity took over and actually told me to my face, Ray, stop what you're doing. You are missing the point of the human experience. You know too much. You are playing the game of not playing the game. It's not what you came here to do. Forget about what you think you want to know and start focusing on the game itself. Why were you born in this body? Why were you born in a specific country? Why do you have a specific way of thinking? What do you need to do? All of these things are things that are specific for you. Those are your gifts. And trust me, everybody has a gift. Even if sometimes we think that we are failures and there's absolutely nothing, no. There is a route that has been planned by creation itself, specifically for us. And what we're trying to do when we're always asking all these questions and we're always trying to change something, by activating our mind, which is our ego, which is pretty much our enemy most of the time if we want to be in bliss, is we're actually not trusting the root. We're not trusting creation. We're trusting in our mind, which is again our enemy, or the thing that doesn't really protects us, but in the same way protects itself, because the ego is a negative thing. And we've talked about this in several of the other videos. So avoid asking those questions. Ask yourself, who am I really? Ask yourself, what is this place? Learn about your next step from whatever it is that you have right now in front of you. And trust me, when you stop asking and avoiding those questions of over time, why haven't I been a rock star so far? Or why have I failed myself doing that and that, or regretting different things in your life? All those things just move you away from who you truly are, from being in the zone, from being in the present moment, which is where your true soul resides. And that is just one of the keys to the awakening of your ascension process. So my friends, thank you very much for staying all the way to the end. If you have any comments, questions, please feel free to ask them here. I would like, if you can, please like the video or even share the Ascension video series. Namaste, and I will see you in my next video.